I want you to close your eyes for a second and just picture a piece of cutting-edge biotechnology.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
So imagine a system that is a fully closed loop. It's got real-time biological sensors, on-demand chemical manufacturing capabilities, and this is the crazy part. It maintains a wireless data connection that syncs up two completely separate nervous systems.
You make it sound like something some tech billionaire is trying to implant in our brain.
Right, doesn't it? But wait, there is actually more to it. This machine also updates its own product formulation, and I'm talking about the actual molecular makeup of what it produces.
Just updating on the fly.
Exactly. It updates based on the immediate health status of the user. So if you pitch this to a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley today, what kind of valuation are you walking out with?
Oh, I mean billions. Easily. You'd be a unicorn before lunch.
100%. But we aren't talking about a tech startup today. We're talking about something much, much older. Today's deep dive is looking at the architecture of breastfeeding.
And I really love that we were using that word architecture here, because usually the conversation around breastfeeding is just so noisy.
Oh, it is incredibly noisy.
Yeah.
It's either hypermedical, where you're measuring ounces, tracking growth charts, obsessing over calories, or it gets pulled right into the mommy wars.
Right, it becomes this moral stance,
Yeah, a lifestyle choice, like it's an identity.
framed as breast is best versus fed is best, and it just instantly becomes this emotional battleground for so many people. But the sources we've pulled for this deep dive are inviting us to basically step back from the culture war entirely.
Which is so refreshing.
It really is. They want us to look at this strictly as a piece of biological engineering.
So our mission today for you listening is to strip away all the judgment and just look at the mechanics. We want to know how this machine actually works because the source material defines it as a co-regulation system and adaptive biology.
And that distinction is vital. If we just think of breastfeeding as food delivery,
Like a biological DoorDash?
right, like biological DoorDash,
Mhm.
if we do that, we're missing about 90% of the engineering. It's not just about transferring calories from person A to person B.
Okay, so let's pop the hood on this vehicle then. If we are calling this adaptive biology, that naturally implies there's hardware and software involved.
That is a great way to put it.
Uh-huh.
And the hardware is deceptively complex.
Mhm.
So at the physiological level, this whole architecture runs on a feedback loop.
Okay.
It's not a faucet that you just turn on and leave running. It is a strictly demand-driven manufacturing plant.
And like any manufacturing plant, it's got to have managers and workers, right?
Exactly. The workforce here is hormonal. You have two main protagonists in this whole story, which are prolactin and oxytocin.
I feel like we hear about oxytocin all the time. It has a fantastic PR team.
It really does. It's heavily branded as the love hormone or the cuddle chemical. But before we even get to the love part, we have to talk about the production side.
And that's prolactin.
Yes. Think of prolactin as the factory manager. Its sole job is to synthesize milk. It takes nutrients directly from the mother's blood and converts them into milk within the alveoli of the breast.
So prolactin basically fills the warehouse.
Precisely, it fills the warehouse. But here is the specific design constraint. Prolactin can fill the warehouse, but it does not have the keys to open the delivery trucks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can have a breast that is completely full of milk, but without the second hormone, the baby basically can't get a single drop.
And that is where the love hormone comes in.
Right. Oxytocin is the delivery driver. In this architecture, it is doing heavy mechanical lifting. It triggers what's known as the letdown reflex.
Which is what physically pushes it out.
Literally squeezes the muscle cells around the milk ducts to force the milk out.
So it's essentially a two-step verification process. Make the product, then authorize the release.
Exactly. And here's where the survival aspect of the engineering gets really wild. Oxytocin is a massive multitasker. If we look at the immediate postpartum period right after birth, that exact same hormone causing the milk to flow is also causing the uterus to contract.
Oh, right. That's to shrink it back down to normal size, isn't it?
Yes, but primarily it is actually a hemorrhage prevention mechanism.
Really?
Yeah. The physical act of feeding the infant triggers the chemical mechanism that stops the mother from bleeding out.
Wow, that is ridiculously efficient design. The system is literally designed to heal the operator while it feeds the user.
It really is. And the sources mention another layer to this efficiency too, which is stress reduction.
Which feels totally ironic because I think for a lot of new parents, the early days of breastfeeding are practically synonymous with stress.
Oh, absolutely.
It's painful, it's incredibly tiring, you're leaking everywhere.
It is a massive paradox. But chemically speaking, Oxytocin acts as a buffer. It lowers blood pressure, and it actually reduces cortisol levels in the mother. The entire design intent of the system is to sedate the mother,
To keep her still.
essentially keeping her calm and stationary so this massive energy transfer can happen safely.
It's the body saying, sit down, relax. Please do not go foraging for berries right now.
Exactly. Stay put. Now, I want to circle back to the manufacturing side with prolactin for a second, because there is a really cool detail in the sources about how the body knows exactly how much to make.
This is the supply and demand concept we hear about.
Yes, but it is way more sophisticated than just baby eats, body makes more.
Yeah.
The source material talks about a specific protein called the feedback inhibitor of lactation, or FIL for short.
Okay, that sounds highly technical. What does FIL actually do?
It is a chemical signal that exists inside the milk itself.
Inside the milk.
Yes. When the breast is full and the milk is just sitting there, the levels of FIL go up. This protein tells the milk-producing cells, stop, we're at capacity. Shut down production.
Wait, so the stop switch is floating inside the actual product?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a completely local feedback loop. It doesn't even need to send a signal to the brain to make that decision. Full breasts turn off their own production to prevent tissue injury and resource waste.
That makes total sense.
And then when the baby drains the breast, the FIL is removed along with the milk, and the cells instantly get the green light to start up the assembly line again.
That is incredibly smart. It prevents the factory from just exploding with excess inventory.
It's a highly responsive loop. And that actually brings us to the part of the research that honestly just blew my mind.
Let's hear it.
We tend to think of milk as a static product. Like, you go to the supermarket, you buy a carton of whole milk, it has a nutrition label on the back, and that label is the exact same today as it was last week.
Right, consistency is the whole hallmark of a commercial product. You want it to taste and be the same every single time.
But breast milk is adaptive biology. It is a living fluid. The nutrition label, if you could somehow print one out, would change every single day,
Really?
sometimes every hour.
Okay, let's drill down on this smart milk concept. How specific are these changes? Are we just talking about it getting a little more watery if it's hot outside?
Well, that actually does happen. Hydration levels do adjust based on temperature, but it gets so much more granular than that. Let's just start with a timeline. The milk produced in the morning is chemically different from the milk produced at night.
How so?
Circadian rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
Morning milk has significantly higher levels of cortisol. It's basically like a cup of coffee to wake the baby's system up.
You're kidding?
Yep. And night milk has much higher concentrations of melatonin and tryptophan.
So it's a built-in sleep aid.
It is literal chemical sleep training. The mother's body is actually teaching the infant's brand new circadian rhythm how to set its internal clock.
That is absolutely incredible. So if you were to pump morning milk and then accidentally give it to the baby at night, you might be caffeinating them.
Theoretically, yes. That is exactly why labeling pumped milk by the time of day is actually a very real best practice.
Wow. Okay, what about over the long term then? The sources mentioned something fascinating about preemies.
Yes, and this is where the pure intelligence of the system really shines. If a baby is born prematurely, the mother's body produces milk with significantly higher protein and fat content than it normally would for a full-term baby.
So the body somehow knows the baby came out early.
The biology recognizes the gestation gap. A preemie desperately needs to grow brain tissue and catch up on weight rapidly. So the milk immediately becomes this calorie-dense catch-up fuel. And then, as the baby reaches what would be full-term age, the chemical profile smoothly shifts back to standard mature milk.
That is wild. It's literally running a diagnostic scan and patching the software in real time.
And hey, if you want to talk about diagnostic scans, we have to talk about the baby spit backwash phenomena.
Oh boy, I saw that heading in the notes and I was really hoping it was a typo. Backwash.
It's definitely not a typo. In the medical world, they elegantly call it retrograde milk flow. But essentially,
It's backwash?
it is backwash.
Okay, break it down for me, but gently.
When a baby suckles, it is not a one-way street. A vacuum is created by the mouth, and a tiny amount of the baby's saliva actually gets pulled back inside the nipple.
See, that just sounds unhygienic.
But it's critical data gathering. That saliva contains the exact pathogens the baby is currently fighting off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If the baby has picked up a virus or some bacteria, the mother's mammary gland receptors analyze that saliva on the spot.
It reads the sample.
It reads the sample, detects the specific threat, and the mother's immune system instantly starts manufacturing targeted antibodies for that specific pathogen.
And then sends them back in the very next feeding.
Within hours, it is a custom-made vaccine produced in real time. If the baby has a cold, the milk might actually turn a little more yellow because it's suddenly flooded with leukocytes, white blood cells, to fight that specific infection.
That really drives home why the source calls it adaptive biology. It is not just food, it's a dynamic immunological support system.
It is pure data processing. Input is the pathogen. Process is the immune response. Output is antibody-rich milk.
So we've got the hardware with the hormones, and we've got the software with the adaptive milk. But the deeper we go into these sources, the more I realize we can't just talk about the fluid itself. The source makes a massive point that breastfeeding is actually a form of regulation.
Yes, and this is the shift from the digestive system to the nervous system. We really have to look at the human infant for what it is. Compared to other mammals, human babies are born essentially half-baked.
That's the fourth trimester concept.
Right. A foal can stand up and walk in an hour. A human baby can't even hold its own head up for months. Their brains are simply too big to stay in the womb any longer, so they're born with nervous systems that are completely raw, unorganized, and glitchy.
They are basically strictly relying on software updates from the parent.
Exactly. They cannot regulate their own temperature well, and they certainly cannot regulate their own stress. They require an external regulator.
And that's the co-regulation part the source kept mentioning.
Precisely. The source lists highly specific physiological impacts. When that architecture is working, the holding, the skin-to-skin contact, the rhythmic sucking it, mechanically stabilizes the infant. It synchronizes the baby's heart rate with the mother's heart rate. It regulates their body temperature through thermal conduction.
So it literally uses the parent's body as a thermostat.
And as a stress reducer, the act of suckling actively lowers cortisol in the baby's brain. So in a very literal sense, the breastfeeding architecture is a mechanism for de-escalating the infant's fight-or-flight response. It organizes their chaotic little nervous system.
The source used the term attachment anchor for this, which really moves us into psychology. How does this biological process translate into building a human mind?
Well, think about the lip we just discussed. The baby feels a deficit, hunger, fear, cold. That registers as stress. They signal that need by crying. The parent responds. The need is met.
It's a training ground for trust.
It is the foundational code for the developing social brain. The source breaks it down into 3 core lessons the infant learns over and over. 1, my needs can be met. 2, my signals matter, meaning I have agency in this world. And 3, regulation occurs through connection.
That last one seems huge. Regulation occurs through connection.
It is the bedrock of human social bonding. The infant learns that when they are completely falling apart, connecting with another human is what brings them back to safety. The source calls this embodied care.
Embodied care. I like that phrasing. It's not abstract love. It's physical containment.
Containment is a perfect psychological concept for this.
Hmm.
It's the idea of being held together when you feel like you are just spilling out everywhere. Breastfeeding, with the specific physical positioning and the wrapping of arms, offers a literal physical container for the child's distress.
Okay, I am totally with you. The engineering is miraculous. The adaptive milk, the nervous system synced is beautiful. But I feel like we need to pause here for a second, because we have a responsibility to look at the user experience data.
Ah, the reality check.
Yeah, because if this architecture is so perfect, if it's this marvel of evolution, why is it so incredibly prone to failure in the modern world? Why do so many parents desperately struggle with supply or latching or immense pain?
That is the critical question.
Yeah.
And the source is very honest about this reality. It says the architecture is robust, yes, but it is also fragile because it is deeply, deeply sensitive to the environment.
This goes right back to our hormones, doesn't it?
It does. Remember oxytocin, our delivery driver?
Yeah.
Biologically, oxytocin has a nemesis, an antagonist.
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones. In the wild, if a tiger is chasing you, your body creates a massive stress response. Part of that immediate response is to inhibit oxytocin.
Because you obviously shouldn't be stopping to nurse a baby while running from a predator.
Exactly. It is a safety valve.
Yeah.
The body shuts down the letdown reflex to conserve energy for basic survival.
Wow.
The problem is, in the modern world, the tiger isn't a predator.
Right. The tiger is sleep deprivation, it's unpaid maternity leave, it's trying to pump in a tiny bathroom stall at work, it's judgment from your in-laws, the pressure to bounce back.
Precisely. Our bodies cannot distinguish between tiger stress and modern life stress. So when a mother is unsupported, anxious, or in physical pain, her cortisol spikes and it chemically blocks the milk from flowing.
So the machine works fine, but the environment pulls the plug.
That's exactly why the source emphasizes that the system isn't just the mother and the baby. The system includes the entire community. Success is heavily influenced by support networks, education, and financial safety. If the environment is high stress and low support, the biological architecture just struggles to execute its code.
That reframes the concept of failure completely. It's not a user error, it's a system error.
Correct. And the source lists physical hurdles too. Tongue ties, anatomical issues, medical complications. These are real bugs in the biology. And it is crucial, really, really crucial, to emphasize what the source says here. These challenges do not imply failure as a parent.
Say that louder for the people in the back, because
Okay.
that is so important.
It really is, because if the biological architecture isn't compatible with the current situation, forcing it can actually be incredibly counterproductive. If the mother is under extreme stress trying to force breastfeeding to work, she's flooded with cortisol.
And the baby feels that.
The baby absolutely picks up on that. The co-regulation we talked about, it works both ways. You can co-regulate anxiety just as easily as you can co-regulate calm.
That is a very powerful insight. Sometimes the best way to regulate the baby is for the parent to just stop fighting the architecture and find a different way to feed.
Exactly. Which leads to arguably the most important caveat in our source material. We do not want to romanticize this biological process to the point where we imply it is the only way to bond.
Right, because the source was very firm on this. It explicitly states that breastfeeding is not the only path to bonding.
Because if we go back to those core psychological lessons we mentioned earlier, needs can be met, signals matter, connection regulates, you can absolutely teach a baby those exact same lessons with a bottle.
It's about the how, not just the what.
100%. Attachment is built through responsiveness. It's built through the gaze, look at the baby in the eye. It's built through skin-to-skin contact, through the gentle way you hold them while bottle feeding. That is mutual attunement.
So you can have that embodied care without the lactation.
Absolutely. Secure, healthy development occurs through multiple caregiving structures. The architecture of attachment is much broader than just the feeding method.
I think that is such a helpful, balanced perspective. It allows us to just marvel at the biology of breastfeeding, because it truly is marvelous, without turning it into a moral report card for parents.
Exactly. We can appreciate the brilliant design without prescribing it as the only valid user experience.
So let's zoom out here as we wrap up. We've analyzed the hormones, the smart adaptive milk, the nervous system synchronization, and the environmental context. When you step back and look at this entire architecture of breastfeeding, what is the main takeaway for you?
For me, it's seeing it as one of the very earliest examples of relational design in human life.
Relational design.
Yeah, it's a system that forces connection. It mandates a physical feedback loop between body and body.
It provides nutrition, but it's also delivering immunity.
It's physical regulation, but it's also psychological bonding.
And its supply constantly adapting to demand in real time.
It really is a complete package. But if I had to summarize it, based on everything we've read today, I would say this. Breastfeeding isn't just a way to feed a baby. It is a biological language.
Oh, language.
Yes, think about it. It is a highly complex system of communication and protection that evolved to bridge the gap between two separate nervous systems. It's the parent's body saying, I'm here, you are safe, and I'm actively changing myself to meet your needs.
And the baby's body answering, I am here and I trust you.
Exactly. It is the blueprint for how we connect as humans.
That is a really profound thought to leave us with. The idea that our biology is literally designed for connection.
It's built right into our source code.
Which makes me wonder, and this is something for you listening to maybe mull over, if this kind of real-time invisible data transfer is happening during infancy, what other seemingly mundane biological processes are secretly engaged in complex communication with the people we love? Like, how is our proximity to our partners or older children subtly rewriting our immune systems and nervous systems right now, every single day, without us even noticing?
That is a fascinating question. The human body is always talking, even when we aren't speaking.
Well, whether you are in the thick of those early newborn days or you're just fascinated by how humans are wired, we hope this deep dive gave you a totally new way to look at something we often take for granted.
And as you go about your day, I invite you to look for those other hidden patterns of biological intelligence in the world around you. We really are walking miracles of engineering.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.
Take care, everyone.